Hi, I'm Glo, and welcome to Glo's Kindred Kitchen. I first of all wanted to start off today and share with everybody that we have hit 1,000 subscribers now on YouTube, and we could not have done it without all of your support and your kind words and sharing and liking our videos and commenting. I just can't thank you enough. So thank you so much. And also thank you, Richard, for helping. He has been a great help.
You're welcome. You got some good feedback on your comments too.
Yes, but I need to share with you guys, this is something I love to do. I love to cook and experiment and share and give you tips. And if by the end of my video, I hope I've helped you. And maybe you've learned a new tip or a new recipe. And that's what makes me feel good when I watch other people's videos as well. YouTube is just wonderful as far as sharing. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I thought how appropriate, because today I had already planned on sharing a recipe from one of my cousins. And her name is Eileen Young. And she is from Iowa. And she shared a recipe that was actually from her grandmother. Her grandmother Vengstra, and they lived in Pella, Iowa. And after church on Sundays, they would go over and visit their grandma and grandpa. They lived on a small farm just outside of town. And quite often, Grandma Vengstra would make this cake called a raisin cake. And so her grandmother made it, and also her mom made it. And so when Eileen became an adult, she started cooking this as well, and she put her own twist on it. So today I've decided to call this Eileen's raisin cake. So let's go ahead and get started.
With a twist.
So there's a fair amount of ingredients in this, but it's going to come together quite quickly. And so let's go over the ingredients and then we'll put it all together. The first thing is there's 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. So I put that right here. I got it all measured out. There's 1/2 cup of butter. You can also use shortening in this if you would like, but Eileen told me that her grandmother and her mother always used short, butter or margarine. There's 1 cup of applesauce. There's 1 egg. There's 1 cup of cold coffee. There are raisins here. There's 1 cup. Now you're supposed to boil these raisins, and Eileen came up with a great idea for this recipe. When you brew your coffee, you take that cup of coffee and you pour it over your raisins and let them soak in that. So that's what I did today. And by the time they were soaked, I have 1 cup of cold coffee here. So the next thing is there's 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and I went ahead and put it in my sifter because we're going to need to sift this. And to that, there's 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So let's go ahead and just put that right in. Then it calls for pumpkin pie spice. So there's 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, and there's also 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So and both of those are in this little container, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. And then Eileen, for her twist on this, besides how she did it with the raisins and the hot coffee, she came up, because there was no frosting on this cake, she has put on a caramel frosting. And it just sounds so delicious. And it calls for 1/2 cup of butter and 2 cups, and it might be that we'll need a little bit more than that, of confectionery sugar. There's 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And then she also said to try some maple extract in it. So I have that right here.
You weren't kidding. There's a lot of ingredients there.
Yeah, there's a fair amount. But I'm sure this is just delicious. I'm guessing this recipe is probably 100 years old or more. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just sift this together so we can get this going. And by sifting this, you're going to get all the little lumps and stuff out of here, and it gives it nice aeration into the flour. So I'm going to just go ahead and set that over here. So now we got that all ready to go. So I'm going to set that over here and get that out of the way so we have more room. So now I've got my 1/2 cup of butter in here, and to that I'm going to add the 1½ cups of granulated sugar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to beat this together with my hand mixer. And I always put my beaters in first before I plug in my appliance, and that's just a safety tip for you.
Safety first, Miss Chloe.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. And I'll be back once this gets creamed, and then we're going to go on to the next step. Well, I got my butter and the sugar all combined. See how nice and light and fluffy that is?
Looks good, Miss Chloe.
So the next thing we're going to do is put in our cup of applesauce.
Okay. Love applesauce.
I do too. If you guys don't have one of these little gadgets, I would highly suggest you find one. I have seen them on Amazon, and probably some of the stores have them as well. That works like a plunger.
What do you call it?
I don't even know what you would call
Probably
it.
a plunger.
I don't know. But I've had this for years. And I'll tell you, this is a lifesaver in the kitchen. You don't waste hardly anything. It just comes right out, and it's easy cleanup.
It's a measuring plunger.
Yeah, it's great.
Not like the one for the toilet.
So anyway, here's my cup of cold coffee.
Okay.
And there are a couple of raisins in the bottom. And then I've got 1 egg. So let's go ahead and just move these out of the way so we have more room. Now let's go ahead and blend this all together. I can smell that coffee and the applesauce. I'm going to just kind of stir it because it's making a mess, isn't it? Kind of splattering.
I hadn't noticed.
It was splattering a little. So
Okay.
we're going to go ahead and just unplug this. Always unplug too before you remove your beaters. There we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these over here. Get them out of the way. Get the mixer out of the way. That way we have more room. So the next thing we're going to do, and let me just stir this up a little bit better, is we're going to add the flour with all those yummy spices into this. But what I'm going to do first is these raisins that I soaked in the hot coffee first, I'm going to add that to the flour mixture. That way the raisins will not sink to the bottom of our cake as it's baking.
Good tip.
So what I'm going to do is just lightly fold these raisins in. There. Yeah, all these little tips, they really do help when you're cooking. Just make your dishes taste so much better, and just makes it a lot easier to get everything done. Just like measuring everything out in advance. You can see how this is just coming together so much better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to the wet ingredients. I'm just going to do about half of it to start with. We'll just stir that up. And this stir thing I have here, whisk, is actually a Danish or a Dutch whisk that I found. And I love this thing. It helps combine things so nicely for stirring.
Where'd you find it at, Miss Chloe?
I actually got this off of Amazon. But I'm sure some of your specialty stores would have it too. But if you see one, by all means get it. It's just love it.
Works real well.
It would make a great gift for someone too that likes to cook.
Oh yeah.
So right now my oven is preheated to 350 degrees. I'm using a glass pan though, so I will turn my stove down probably to about 330 degrees.
In the oven?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right, the oven. And the reason being, when you cook with glass, you need to reduce your temperature just a little, like up to 25 degrees if you want. It's just...
It's hotter.
Yep, it sure does. So we got that all nicely combined. So the next step here is we're going to spray our pan with some butter spray. And that will help keep the cake from sticking.
Don't do it over the floor. You don't want to slip. Turns the floor into an ice rink.
That's why I'm doing that over my
sink. Turns the floor into an ice rink.
It does. I know of someone that slipped on the floor with that and fractured their hip. So after I heard that, I was like, no more of that. Accidents happen way too quickly. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pour this batter into our pan that I just spray buttered the with that like Pam stuff. You can really smell the spices in this. And this is going to cook. The original recipe said it until done. But Eileen has down here that it takes 25 to 30 minutes approximately. So I'll be setting my timer for probably about 23 minutes to do the first check, because I don't want it to get overdone. And everybody's oven is different. There we go. Doesn't that look yummy?
It does.
So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven, and I'll see you back in probably 25 to 30 minutes.
Sounds good.
Well, I just took this out of the oven, and I got to tell you, it smells so good. I can smell the spices in it. I can even smell the coffee. It's just, I'm really looking forward to this. And I think that caramel frosting, Eileen, that you have decided to put on here, I can't wait to taste it. So anyway, we'll be back in a bit, and we're going to be making the frosting together, and then we'll frost the cake as well together. But we have to wait until this cake is cool. I'll see you back then. Well, our cake is busy cooling over there, and we're going to start the caramel frosting that Eileen has for this cake. The reason I'm going to start it now is because the butter and the brown sugar and the milk, once we get that all combined together, it needs to cool before we can whip it up with the confectionery sugar. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner. I have 1 stick of butter in my pan, which is a 1/2 cup. And that's what Eileen says is what we need. And I'm going to put this on medium to start the butter to melt. So I'll be back in just a little bit, and then once this is melted, then we're going to be adding the brown sugar. Well, my butter is all melted, see? So now we're going to add our brown sugar. And I was reviewing the recipe, and it calls for 1 cup of brown sugar, not a 1/2 cup. So I've got another 1/2 cup here. So let's go ahead and put the first 1/2 cup in. And then, you know, when you measure brown sugar, you always pack it in too. Not loosely, but pack it. So there's our other one. So 2 halves equals a whole. So I'm glad I caught that as I was reviewing. Always do that. Review your recipes. Because you can make a mistake, just like I was about ready to do there. And it wouldn't have been near as good if I hadn't had that additional 1/2 cup of brown sugar. So, and I was going to show you, I keep my brown sugar in a container like this, or you can keep it in a jar or whatever, and I put 2 marshmallows in. Look how, and that keeps the brown sugar light and soft. Look at that, you guys.
You can use bread too.
Yeah, but the
marshmallows work better.
Yeah, they do. So I'm going to just set that over there. Now we're supposed to cook this on low for 2 minutes. And you're supposed to constantly stir. So it's starting to combine together. So I'm going to let this cook for 2 minutes and I'll be back, and then we're going to be adding the milk.
Sounds good.
Well, this has been cooking here for 2 minutes, and I was just going to show you how nicely that's combined. The butter has been absorbed by the sugar, and it's all combined nicely. And now we are going to add 1/4 cup, and I have whole milk here. So we're supposed to add that. And we're supposed to continue to cook this until this comes to a boil. So I'm going to go ahead and see how it's starting to combine together here nicely.
Yes.
It's going to take a little bit, and so as soon as it comes to a boil, I'll bring you back so you can see that, and then we're going to need to let this cool before we go on to the next step. Hi, well, it's been a few minutes, and you can see how it's starting to come to a boil here.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to thicken up, and I'm going to let it cook just a tad longer here, let it come to a good boil, and then I'm going to turn this off and remove it from the heat. Let's look at that. It smells so good, you guys.
Should be good on top.
Mm-hmm. And I have this on medium-low. Look at that.
Mm-hmm. Can't wait to try it.
Yeah. Look at all those bubbles.
It's a bubbler.
Mm-hmm. Too bad we don't have smell-o-vision.
No, for some things, yeah. For this, yeah. But other things,
Oh, no. Eileen, if this cake is going to be anything like what this smells like, it's going to be heaven. Look at that, you guys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this from the heat, and we have to let this totally cool, and then we're going to go on to the next step, adding the powdered sugar. So we'll be back.
See ya.
Well, our caramel is pretty much cool, so we're going to go ahead and whip up this frosting. Look how good that looks.
Well, it tastes good too. We just checked it out.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'm sorry I have this turned towards me, but I am definitely a righty, and I just don't want to mess this up and lose any of this.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's pretty good. It's really good.
Whoopsie, I already messed up there. There's a little bit more in here too. There we go. So the next step is we're going to take some of this powdered sugar. She says to start off with 2 cups. So I've got my beater over here ready. I just need to plug it in. And I'm going to take a little at a time to blend it in. Can you see that?
Yes.
You can? Okay.
Well, you can move the bowl a little closer to me if you'd like.
Okay, let me move this pot out of the way. Add some more. By doing it a little at a time, we're not going to have the mess, I think, that if I put it all in there at once. Because powdered sugar has a tendency to really pick up a lot of dust. Oh yeah, look how nice that's blending together, you guys. Put a little bit more in. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to put this powdered sugar in, and then I'll be back and we'll go on to the next step. Well, now it's time to frost it. This cake is completely cool. We did the frosting and look how nice that is. We tasted it too, and it is delicious. I added a 1/4 teaspoon of the maple flavoring like Eileen suggested, and it just sent it up a whole nother notch. This is going to be delicious. Actually, this would be an excellent cake to serve at Thanksgiving as one of your desserts. People, I think, would really like this.
Top notch. Said it went up another notch.
Okay, and then I have an offset spatula that I'm going to just spread this frosting out with.
Mm-hmm. Looks good.
And the color is really pretty too.
So pretty, so pretty.
This frosting just spreads so nice. Now, one thing I will tell you is I add just a couple of drizzles of extra milk to make it really creamy. Mine was a little thick, and I only did the 2 cups of confectionery sugar, just so you guys know. So when you're making the frosting, if it's too thick, just add a tiny bit more water, or not water, but milk. Because if you add too much, then it's going to be real watery. Okay, and I'm just going to do this. And then Eileen suggested putting some toasted pecans on it. And I do have some pecans that are the chopped pecans in a bag. So I toasted those or roasted them in the oven. So we're going to put some of that on as well. All right. So see here, they're still a little warm. Not bad. But by roasting or toasting on the stove your nuts, it just brightens them right up, just kind of wakes them up and gives them a whole new flavor. They're delicious. Now, if you had whole pecans, that would be really pretty on here too. Or you could cut these up so they're even smaller, but I decided to just leave them like this. Think that's enough nuts? Should I put a
few more. I see an open spot down here by me. Yeah, that one. I'll put a few extras. Yeah, well, don't do all of them though.
No, you want to see the frosting too. I think that's enough.
Looks good, Miss Clem.
All right, so take a look at that, you guys. Isn't that beautiful?
Looks good to me. Let's cut one.
Eileen,
I just,
yeah, we're going to take a picture of this and then we'll taste test it. So, Eileen, I just want to tell you thank you for this wonderful dessert. And we're anxiously awaiting to finish taking the pictures and then we'll sample it. But I really appreciate you sharing this with us. So I'll be back in just a few minutes and we're going to sample this together. Well, now it's time to taste test. This is the very best part. So first of all, I want to thank Eileen again for this wonderful recipe and also for supporting me in our channel. You're always texting me and giving me ideas and comments, and I really appreciate that. So anyway, here we go. Look at that delicious cake.
That frosting is good. I've already taste tested it myself.
So now I'm going to take a bite.
Haven't had the cake yet.
You can smell the raisins, that pumpkin pie spice, and even the coffee you can smell. I've got to have another bite. That is delicious. You should enter that in a contest. I'm serious. That caramel frosting on it just really adds to it. And then those toasted pecans with that touch of maple extract in there.
Tried at the state fair.
Oh, it is delicious, you guys. It would make a wonderful cake for Thanksgiving or even over the holidays. But anyway, again, thank you everybody for your support. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do. I hope you guys have taken something from this video today. And take care and God bless. Bye.